Welcome to the Base Coat Brainiac podcast. My name is Austin Hauser. I am Chief Brainiac over here at Base Coat Marketing. If you own a painting business and you're listening in right now, you are in the right place. Now, today I have the pleasure of introducing the moped riding, 3-point draining, the high gloss coat king behind the $2 million ZK painting empire, Zach Kenny. Zach, thanks for taking the time out of your day to be here, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
So, Zach, before we get into the weeds of how you built your company, primarily on organically posting on social media, which still just blows my mind, I want to hear from you. Who is Zach Kenny? How did you get into painting? Tell me your story.
Yeah, man. I like Jason Paris. I'm just a humble painter. I started painting when I was 14, 15 as a punishment. I had to paint a picnic table from my mom at her nonprofit daycare. And some guy saw me doing it as fast as I could because I was trying to get done with it. And he gave me a job painting picnic tables all summer, actually. And so I could always make more money painting than doing other things. You know, I think I worked at Home Goods for a little bit in high school, and I was like, this sucks. So I enjoyed the instant gratification. I enjoyed painting. I was not a great employee. So like the trades are pretty wishy-washy. You can sort of not show up one day and they're not going to fire you. And, it was for many reasons it spoke to it, and it was the best thing I could do at the time. And so I just always had the skill set. I'm a pretty intense person. When I get into something, I go pretty hard. And so I was really into the craft of painting, even though I didn't have a lot of resources. I was doing the best I could to push the levels of the craft. And it all started from a punishment.
That's fascinating. So at what point did you make the shift of working for somebody else painting picnic tables to opening up a business and scaling that?
Yeah, so I was living in Philadelphia with my ex-girlfriend from a long time ago, and she was in medical school, and I was a degenerate painter. And eventually we broke up, and I had some family issues. My dad actually had a painting company for a couple of years, but he wasn't really a painter, and he was an alcoholic, and sort of went off the rails. I moved home to be with my family and had to figure out how to make a living. And so I started working painting a flip house for a friend's dad for $15 an hour. And I was like, all right, I'm out on my own, and I'm the king of fake it till you make it. So I went on one of those websites and formed an LLC and named my company ZK Painting LLC. I didn't file the paperwork you're supposed to file to continue that. So instantly after the first quarter, I think my LLC was no longer a real thing. But I had a business card that said LLC on it. I had a friend make me a logo, and I was just doing whatever it took to survive. I had $1,000 Ford Taurus and a little giant ladder in the back. And if you were going to pay me to do some manual labor, I was there. It was a pretty wild beginning to think about where I am today.
Yeah, where you're at today, you have a very professionalized company. So what did the journey of going through the process of just bootstrapping your way through to the point where you realized, hey, this is actually a career that I can make into a business that I can scale. What did that transition look like for you?
Well, that was a very long, difficult. I'd like to say I could there was a North Star, general North Star. I'm not a goals person really, but I definitely have a North Star that I'm always working toward. I like that analogy a bit better. And so I think it was a lot of serendipity, a lot of desperation. I just needed to stay alive. I needed to be able to pay my bills. And so for most of when I think about the first 6 or 7 years in business, if you will, on my own, it was pure survival mode. And with a passion for craftsmanship behind it all that actually kind of made things worse. I think if I had been a little bit less passionate about the craft and my ego wasn't being fed from like doing a little bit better job than some other guy, I might have made a better living or a living really. I didn't really make any money painting for a very long time. I just survived. I paid everybody cash under the table. I had to pawn tools. I didn't pay taxes. If I did, I would have been out of business. It was very survival mode. But then I'm an addict in recovery. I've been clean a little over 10 years now. So I stopped smoking weed every day and drinking and like doing drugs. And like, that helped. Right.
Yeah.
Big change. And then, but like, I think I was coming from like this world of my norms were just so unprofessional that it took a long time to continue to like shed that and just like level up. But social media happened, Instagram happened. And that was really like the lead domino that changed everything for me. I think it connected me to other painters. It connected me to clients. It expanded what I thought was possible. And so really it was when I started on Instagram was like the big inflection point of, that got me to where I am today.
Yeah. So let's transition into that conversation because this is really where I think a lot of guys try and fail. And that is how to leverage social media. For those of you who don't know, social media is a pay-to-play platform. You either invest your money or your time to get results. If you're not investing enough time, you're not going to get the results you expect. So by now, everyone's heard that you can generate results on social media by running ads on Meta, so Facebook and Instagram. But paid social campaigns do get expensive. So you found a strategy that works well. And I want to get into the details of what that looks like. But can you talk to me about some of the results that you're getting, maybe high level, off of your organic social posting campaigns?
Yeah. So, I mean, to date, we've done over 5 million in revenue. In some way, shape, or form, the lead came from Instagram or was solidified because of Instagram. And we sold the job. That if you would have told me that when I started Instagram, everyone would have just said, you're an absolute psycho. Like that is not going to be real. The people who buy paint jobs aren't on Instagram, blah, 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 blah. I've heard it all. I never would have believed it. To be honest, this was very serendipitous the way I've arrived here. But I think one thing that I've done fairly well after feeling a lot of pain in business has been to sort of listen to the market, listen to the world, and be adaptive, and not just. I was very idealistic when I started my business, and I thought this is how things should be, and I would like try to put a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah,
I think business is really about, as I've read and learned and talked to people and experienced, like it's really about giving the market what it wants and listening. It's a lot of listening. And so I think being able to sort of open my mind to like what is possible has been very incremental. But now I'm no longer surprised. Like we did a $600,000 paint job that came from Instagram. And, that's just, it still doesn't even feel real. And they happen all the time now. People reach out, and I met a client yesterday who, we'll do a ton of work for, and she already knows us. Like she knows me and my company intimately. I don't know her at all, but she knows me. And that makes the sales process. She let it slip that she's bidding out the hardwood floors and the other things, but I'm the only painter. And like that on the scale, I mean, this is a multi-$100,000 project. Like at the scale that we're looking at projects, when you're the only one, that's really good for a lot of reasons.
I always say people only buy because they know, like, and trust you. They don't care about your services. They need to know who they're buying from. So do you guys actually invest in any social ads at this point, or is it all organic?
I think I did like 2 social ads like 5 years ago for like $20. I would not recommend anybody ever try to do their own social media ad stuff. that's generally known to not work. The boost your post thing is just a money grab from Meta, right?
You just light that shit on fire, man.
Yeah, you might as well just burn it. And that's actually, that leads me to like one of my big passions now is helping other people and spread. That's why I'm here, like just to put out the proper information about social media. And the biggest issue right now on social media is people are tracking the wrong metrics.
Yep.
And the metrics of Instagram do not pay our bills. So, but there's a lot of biological positive feedback loops from likes, views, and follows. And so, because Instagram has engineered the platform to make us want to game it to do what Instagram wants, which is to get more engagement on their platform so they can sell more ads over it. Where, you know, I think for a long time, I was one of those people. I was obsessed with likes, views, follows, trying to optimize for those things. And whatever metric you try to optimize for, you probably will. And so I coach people and I focus on optimizing for generally revenue or leads for most businesses. Sometimes it's employees for commercial companies more. But yeah, when you're just doing like this, oh, I'm going to boost this thing and watch my views go up. Like, what is it doing?
I always say, man, you cannot deposit a like in the bank account. It is a fun metric to look at. It makes you feel good. But at the end of the day, you have to look at the bottom line number, and that's return on investment. And that return on investment, a lot of people don't realize, like, you have to factor your time into that too. If you're out there recording videos, how much time does that take out of your day, right? So I think one of the big things that a lot of people look at social media and that steers them away is there's only low quality leads out there. It's too top of funnel. It's all about interest-based marketing, right? So do you guys keep track of your set rate? So like out of every lead that comes in from your campaigns on Instagram, like roughly how many estimates do you go on? What's the close rate on that? Do you guys keep track of any of that?
My close rate from Instagram is over 80%.
Crazy.
Yeah, but because if you follow me, it is so obvious what we do and that we're not going to be cheap. Like I have been so intentional with my content creation. And there's a couple things that we need to talk about. Like there are kind of three buckets for types of companies on Instagram, but let's just talk about painting companies. There is the majority of painters on social media, which are just guys that are there for the community and to post some stuff about what they're doing and like to have fun and to find some friends that paint. Like that's the majority of people on social media that are painters. Then you have businesses, and we don't like that. Who cares about optimizing for that? Just go be a person and have fun and meet people and DM and have friends. Then there's like the businesses that like my ZK painting that can post content, get revenue, sell jobs because of their content. And then there's this tiny, tiny percentage. There's like 5 of us that are influencers, and we get paid for our influence. I do brand deals, and we make videos with companies, and we get paid for it. Again, we don't want to talk about that category. And a lot of the stuff I do gets mixed up in people's minds because they're seeing me do most of what I do visually. It's obvious is that type of content. Everybody I coach and anybody I talk to, I don't want anyone trying to make that type of content. It's just long tail stuff. It's for a very small group of us once you hit a certain threshold. But if we talk about when you go to any place, you hear anyone talk about social media and there's advice about social media, all of it, in my experience, almost 99% of all information given about social media is for the influencer group. It's for how do we game the algorithm? How do we pretend like someone on Instagram is going to randomly find us? That is not how I drove $5 million worth of business to my Instagram, from Instagram. It is not from random strangers who happen to stumble upon me on Instagram. We need to break this idea. The idea is I build this beautiful portfolio. It's a documentary of my company. It answers all the sales questions. This makes me want to buy from you because I know exactly what it's like to buy from you, right? And then, just like I have a plan to get Google reviews, we build a plan to get follows from humans that we interact with day to day. Boots on the ground. This is not strangers finding us. This is a face-to-face marketing tool that we are trying to drive humans to follow us. Every lead, do you follow us? If you don't, you might think about it. You can get a lot of value out of it. Here's why you might want to follow us. Build it, bringing current clients and all referrals into our following. That's the goal. And that's where real revenue comes from, because these are people who are in your backyard who buy paint jobs. And so you could have 100 followers, and if all 100 are potential clients, there's serious revenue. But that's not talked about. I've not heard anybody talk about social media in that way.
Right. And I think to your point, a lot of the strategies out there are about the national audience, right? Using hashtags and all that. And that's great, but you're a local business and you need to find that local market. That's really what you're after. So I assume you call yourself a content creator at this point, correct?
Yeah, I fully embraced the influencer word. It was a word for a long time. Then I was on the fence about it. It's just what I am. It's the term for what I do, and fine. But I'm also a painting business owner, and the majority of my income comes from that. And a lot of the content that drives the revenue to my company gets hidden behind satisfying videos and video content. Generally, I don't coach anybody ever to make videos. I don't think videos are where it's at for 99% of businesses. They have no business making videos. They're very labor intensive. They're pretty easy to do poorly. I don't recommend people make videos.
So let's talk about that, because that was going to be a question of mine, is how much time do you invest into creating content, which I guess let's start there. How much time do you invest into creating content daily, weekly, monthly?
I would say I ebb and flow, because there's a strategy to grow following, and I will go through spurts where I'm like, I want to grow my following, and I'm posting a reel every single day for 3 months straight. And that is guaranteed I will gain followers. That is going to take me probably an hour a day, maybe a little bit less, but it's about an hour a day. That's a lot for me. I don't want to spend that much time generally. When I talk to businesses and I help them get started, I'm not trying to have you spend an hour a day. When you're just creating content that drives revenue, you're making a picture post and a detailed caption. You could make quite a few. You might spend 30 minutes a day if you post it every day, but then you also don't need to post every day. If we're building this portfolio that's a documentary of our company, then cadence is not that important. It's just do what you can do. Now, will you get to your destination faster if you post every day? Yes, you will. But there's not a penalty for going slow to your destination. Where when you're talking about everybody that's talking about influencer stuff and hacking the algorithm, yes, the algorithm will not punish you. It will give you a benefit if you post every day for 6 weeks straight. So on the algorithm influencer hacking side, there's all this talk about how often to post. And you do want to post every day, but we don't care about that. So what I try to get people to do is keep the bar super low. How do we make this not take up a lot of time and energy to get the maximum results? And I think that's the type of stuff we're running businesses. This is one aspect of our business. But it's better to not post than to post some terrible post that doesn't add value to a potential client.
Yeah. And I think you've set the bar right. You have to set yourself up for success. If you make it feel like a chore, something you need to do, you're not going to get it done. You're going to find reasons that you can't do it. And then when the results aren't there, especially on social media, which in my opinion is very similar to the organic growth on places like Google on the SEO side, it takes time. And, it's a slow burn. And if you don't see those quick results, a lot of people just quit. They usually quit too early. So let's talk about, what does that process look like? If you're just getting started, you want to start growing a following, where do you recommend starting?
Like by far the most important thing is to sit down and make a plan. Like if I consult with people and I help build these frameworks. If you don't sit down and build a framework that is, here's what I'm trying to say, here's how I can say it, here is my step-by-step checklist to making a post. Here is all the guardrails. And this is what I'm going to play within. If you don't do that, then you wake up every morning and you have an infinite amount of things to post about. And that is paralyzing, right? That is just, we're trying to make this easy. And when you don't have like a really good plan that says we're only going to post like these 4 types of posts, and the 4 types of posts are supposed to say these 3 things, and we're going to say it with this type of voice, then it becomes like this huge mental drain to create content. So the first thing I would tell anyone to do is to sit down and go, what am I trying to say? How can I say it? And writing it out, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm trying to say. Here's how I can say it. Here's who I'm saying it to. And then here's how I'm going to make a post. I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And then you can keep iterating on that framework. But when you have an actual framework, a document that is like the guardrails to your content, it massively drops the amount of effort it takes to create a post. And then it massively increases the consistency and cohesiveness of your content, which is a huge issue that I see with people.
Absolutely.
Today they post about this, tomorrow they post about this, and like whatever mood they're in, they're posting about.
Yeah.
It looks crazy when you go back and look at a feed.
Do you tie that into a content calendar, or is that framework just to give you a guide to how to go about post?
I don't generally get into the content calendar stuff. I prefer to post natively to the platforms and not use a content calendar. But mapping them all out is very important. Yes. I'm going to you plan out, here are my 4 categories. I'm going to brainstorm about each category, a bunch of different posts. I'm going to then map out, generally the picture will look like this. The caption will say this, and then have a bunch of brainstormed ideas and then go take all my photos. We want to be intentional about this. That word is like the most important thing here. Intentionality. It's the opposite of like 99% of what social media is for people right now. There's no intentionality. They're just like waking up and just like whatever, doing it. And all of my success is like secretly happening because I'm being incredibly intentional. And you don't really see it because it just like, I'm just posting. But in the background, there's a lot of thought and a lot of guardrails, around what's happening. And that's why like people feel like they know us, they know me, because I've been very consistent with my messaging. And my experience is that's very hard to do if you don't have a plan.
The subconscious nature of what you make look easy, it's amazing. A lot of people look at that, they're like, I can do that, but they don't look at the full big picture and realize exactly how much effort goes into all of that. Now, I am curious though, because you offer a high-end service and you offer it to a high-end market. You mentioned you're on a $600,000 job right now. Do you feel like your strategy works due to your market, or do you think this can work for anybody that is throwing paint on the wall?
No, it absolutely works for anybody. I've seen it. I have clients that have most painters are doing this, because at the end of the day, every company sells paint jobs to people who wanted to buy a paint job from them. And those people wanted to buy a paint job because of certain reasons, like whatever they may be. For me, a lot of my clients are buying because we do incredibly high-end work and we do it really quickly and we're low risk. So I have 3 real competitive advantages: quality, speed, and I'm a low risk. I beat the drum of those 3 things. So the people who care about those things are being spoken to by my content. There are companies who are incredibly professional, have scale, and are cost effective. And a bunch of people want to buy those things. So then those companies say those things all the time in their content, and the people who want to buy them are being spoken to. Now, it's one of those things that people oftentimes write off what I do and my success because we work at the high-end market. I have just, all of my content and messaging is streamlined to one group of humans, and then those people are buying from me. Any company, we all are doing it. Every company that is selling paint jobs is selling paint jobs to a group of people who wanted to buy from them. So when you figure out who is that group, why do they buy, and what can I say to them that will make them want to buy from me? It's just different. You probably have most of my clients, I've not worked with clients in my market. Most of the people I help are those people. And so we're going, okay, why do your clients today buy from you? Well, because of this, this, and this. Okay. Well, then we need to highlight those ideas in content, right? And for most companies that I'm working with, they're professional companies. It is just that they have a system. Okay, let's make a post about how do I get in contact with you? Here's a post. It's just a picture of an intake form. Here's a caption. If you want to if you want an estimate, you go to these 3 things. You can call us, you can email us, or you can fill out this form, and the link is in our bio. This is how you get a hold of us. A basic, boring ass post. It's not going to do anything by the metrics of social media. But if I'm looking at potentially buying a paint job, oh, wow, okay. This spoke to me. And then what's the next step in the process? After you fill out the inquiry form, here's what's going to happen next. And when we are giving somebody a deep understanding into what is it like to do business with this company before they pick up the phone, we've done marketing well. And we're going to get leads, and we're going to sell jobs. And it's incredibly boring, and it's not going to do well by all the metrics except for Miss Jones, who is your ideal customer, is going to love this stuff. But it's very difficult to do that if you don't have a plan, because there's no biological positive feedback loops from that. So I go through with each person. The first thing we're going to do, if you're a professionalized company, is go through every single step of your process, from the time they do the inquiry form till the final check is picked up to the warranty. And you're probably going to end up with 10, 15 posts that, okay, when the estimator shows up, what's going to happen? Right? It's a boring post. But if we break down the whole process, you think that guy chucking a truck can compete? Not even close. And so the people who buy from you because you do certain things that they like. You need to highlight what those things are.
So good. You know, we leverage a book. It's called They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. It's a content creation strategy and it primarily works well on the SEO side, but it's just the general concept is you actively listen to your audience and you tell them what they want to hear, right? It's not complicated. And I see a lot of correlation between those 2 strategies there. You know, I am curious. So when you're looking at crafting these posts, everybody talks about content. But the content is 2 pieces on social media. You have the creative and the copy. So on the creative side, you mentioned just a boring post about an intake form. What type of images or videos? You mentioned you don't even recommend creating videos on the organic side. What do you see perform best? Or are you not even looking at the metrics at that point? You're just telling a story.
You're just telling a story. The meat and potatoes of it is in captions. Because if I'm thinking about buying a paint job from somebody, I'm happy to read your captions. Yes. Does most of Instagram want to be fed dopamine hits? Yes. That's what all the talk about social media is about. How do you create dopamine hits for people? That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about Miss Jones hired you, loves you, and wants to tell Miss Johnson about you at a dinner party. If you've done this right, she uses Instagram to do it. It's sticky. Miss Johnson had a couple drinks. She's all excited about a paint job. She follows you, and then she forgets on Monday morning. But then Tuesday, your post comes up. And then Thursday, and then next Tuesday, and next Friday. And 3 months later, Miss Johnson calls you and goes, I've been stalking you. I've been following you for a while. I hope you don't mind. But, you know, I really love what you did over here. Like that's how revenue comes from social media. It's all real life physical stuff. And that, like, I think that's the thing that it's just not being talked about.
Yeah, it's a completely different way of thinking about posting on social media. Because again, to your point, everybody's like, "How can I create the most viral, engaging content?" That's that TikTok, dopamine hit. And there's a time and a place for that. To be fair, but in general, if we look even at like the SEO side, a lot of people look at things like clicks and impressions and click-through rate. And I tell everybody, don't worry about that. I mean, hell, we don't even care about where you rank in some cases, because at the end of the day, we just want high quality traffic coming in for terms in your search area. It's not about ranking nationally for painting services. It's about ranking in your local market. The same thing follows suit on the organic social side. It's not about how many views or clicks and likes you have. It's all about just telling a story and engaging with that audience when they're ready to meet you at that time and place. So I know you find a lot of success on Instagram. I presume you do all the same posting over there on Facebook, given that they are connected today.
Yeah.
Do you do anything on TikTok or Snapchat or anything else out there?
Not anymore. I did. During COVID, I started TikTok and got to 550,000 followers super fast, and it didn't turn into one lead. And it's been slowly dwindling in followers. I don't post over there. I don't spend time on TikTok at all. I think if you found success there, continue it. But I don't see it as a platform today that I would invest a lot of time or energy into.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Especially we don't know how often that or how long that platform is going to be around here in the States for.
And it's video content. And yeah. Honestly, I just don't. If I'm a business owner, and if you're a business owner, you have a machine that takes leads and turns it into profit. That's the hard part about business. Like, if you have built this machine that takes a lead and turns it into profit on the back end at some rate, then social media is your friend. Instagram is so powerful to drive leads. But, and that's where, like, if you don't have that and you have like nothing, then okay, you can start creating videos like I did when I had all the time in the world. And like, you can create videos and there's a whole world of video creation, and maybe you become a viral video expert and you can sell ads on top of what you're doing. But that is very, very rare. And, it's not something I would ever want to spend, like, people spending time trying to achieve. Because honestly, when you get there, the payoff is not nearly what the payoff is if you can drive leads to your business. That payoff is unbelievable.
Couldn't agree more. Business, I think a lot of people try to overcomplicate this and they try to find like the hack in the in. It's not complicated. You just need to do a lot of things consistently and just do it better than the next guy. So your strategy on, let's look at Instagram in particular. You have a framework of posts. You do it consistently. We recommend our clients, post, let's say, once or twice a week, a couple times a month. We don't have a cadence for that. It's not a service we offer. And I guess I do have a question is, given the fact that there's no bars here, we don't offer that as a service because we don't see the value in it. Do you find that there's any possibility that you can pay somebody to do organic social posting for you and see results?
No, not well. Yes. There in a world, there are companies that do this well. VaynerMedia does it well. Do you have $200K a year?
Right.
Put into this minimum? Like, if I was a partner in a social media marketing company and we built Instagram accounts and grew them for businesses, mostly consumer packaged goods, but I did start Armstrong Clark Stains Instagram, and we built it to like 20,000 followers. And we were, at the time when I left the company, our minimum was like $4,000 a month to create content for a brand. And I left because that's not nearly enough. We weren't adding nearly enough value. We needed to either coach people up on how to create their own stuff or charge $15,000, $20,000 a month. Because the important part about, like, why you can't hire someone to do this is you're trying to get, it's like playing telephone. When I can communicate my brand fairly clearly, because I eat, sleep, and breathe it. I built this thing, and it's still hard for me to translate my brand into content. if I try to take some intern at some company who's never held a paintbrush and they are now responsible for creating content for my company, like the amount of time and effort that person needs to spend in your company, understanding you, your market, how to write for you, how to talk to your ideal client, like that's what Vayner does, right? Vayner and the big agencies who are working for big companies, they're spending extensive amounts of time with the brand, understanding what makes this brand tick, understanding all these things so that they can then go and create content that drives things and sounds like that company. The idea that you could pay $900 a month to some guy and he's going to be able to distill down your company into content and put it out there and get effective results, not a chance. But there's this problem right now where there's a bunch of like out in the zeitgeist, like it is known you're supposed to be posting. There's a lot of people who feel a lot of anxiety around this idea that I'm supposed to be posting. That's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so when this guy shows up and he's like, hey, for $900 a month, like I will get rid of that anxiety for you and I will post. They're like, oh, amazing. No one's talking about tracking metrics from these things. Hey, what's your ROI on this $900 or $1,200 a month you're paying to this person? It's $0. But the ROI is you don't feel guilty or anxious about not creating content anymore.
Yeah.
No, you got to create your own stuff.
It's so true, man. And I tell anybody that's paying for organic social posting, I don't care if it's an assistant or it's a marketing firm, you're wasting your money. You're literally burning your money on fire. Go give it to the homeless. There's a strategy on the paid social side that's very different. Organic social posting. If you're paying for somebody and they put a Happy Memorial Day post on your page, you just wasted, I don't know how many dollars on that, but it's not going to get you anything. You might not even get a like out of that. I couldn't agree more. It's something that you need to get to know your audience. Anybody posting on social media is just an amplification device for your business. And if they don't know what your message is, it's because, again, you're going to be different than the next guy. And that's why people buy from you. It's going to be impossible, right? So let's talk a little bit about your overall strategy. I want to get pretty fine tuned here because I think where a lot of guys fail, to your point, is the anxiety behind it. They're afraid to get in front of the camera. They don't know how to write the content or how often to post, or they feel like they're being repetitious about it. It's a common one that I hear. It's like, oh, I've already posted about that last week. Am I going to tell the same story again? How do I make it different? How do I make it engaging? Are they overthinking that? Like, where does you even start in that whole time frame of, I need to post, I have a framework, but then where do I go from there?
Yeah, and that's a great point. So the framework is important, again, and one other reason it's important is it's to help you say the same thing over and over again, because it's not natural. The biggest problem that we have as business owners is we are deep in the weeds with what we do. We are so in it that, and what we're trying to do is communicate and create content and messaging to a layperson, someone who is not in the weeds, and in fact has 5 million things that are vying for their attention. So this idea that I can create a post that says, we paint glossy front doors. And the way we do it is we take the door and then we refinish it and then we bring it back to you. And I could make one post about that, and then the world would just all remember it and know it. And it's just crazy. I have to say it over and over and over and over and over again. And that is very unnatural to do for anybody. And especially if you eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. And you're like, well, I said that we do interior. I said that we did cabinet painting last week. So now I'm done. There are so many reasons why that is not a good idea, right? If I create a piece of content today, 20% of my following will see it, maybe. And by seeing it, that means seeing it for a second or two. Who knows? They're at the grocery store standing in line looking at my content, and then it's their turn to put the groceries on the counter, or the kid says something, or people's attention is everywhere, right? when you think of it, how people consume content, it's, yes, we have to say it over and over. And also when you're a lay person, you hear a piece of information, you don't absorb it instantly the way an expert does. It's like if you're hearing a foreign language, you don't just, all those words, you don't hear them and they don't just go in and like hang out. Like but so we're speaking a foreign language to somebody and we're fluent. We need to like slow down and say the same thing over and over again. That's not easy to do without a framework, right? But yes, there was other questions in there that I.
No, that was great. And I think you touched on a great point, is 7 to 14 touch points. I mean, I would go as far to say it needs more like 20 touch points before somebody's actually going to remember and engage with you at the right time. Because, to your point, even if somebody's interested, and I tell all of our clients this is why you need a good follow-up process. If they take the time out of their day to provide you with their information, they've expressed some sort of intent or some sort of interest. They just might not be ready to meet you at the time of answering the phone and talking to you. They might be at work. They might work late nights. They might not have the time to talk to their wife at that point. There's so many reasons. That's why you need consistent follow-ups, consistent touch points. To your point, tell them the same thing 20 times in a row. It's not going to matter. Eventually, they're going to hit you at the right time. I have a question. Like, are hashtags important in this strategy?
Well, hashtags are not important at all anymore. Instagram is using your captions as hashtags. So they're reading the words you're saying and they're using them as hashtags. So hashtags are not a thing anymore.
Yeah. Exactly.
But they never were a thing for anybody who cared about what we've been talking about.
Yep.
Hashtags were maybe about growing a following in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, I have not made a hashtag in a very long
time. So the type of content you create, do you recommend just creating posts a couple times a week, a handful of times each month? Are you also looking at reels, both? What's your strategy there?
So for 99% of painting businesses, I would recommend batch doing all of this, right? You sit down and you go, okay, I'm going to make content that highlights that I have scale. I have a company that has, if you have 10 plus painters, you're a large painting company. So Miss Jones, who wants things done quick, easy, and fast, will like the fact that you have a large team and you do a lot of projects. Okay, so I have a category that just is like, I need to highlight I have scale. Well, what are all the ways I can highlight I have scale? I could just post a picture of a Google Maps with pins. How many pins did I do last year? Well, here's all the jobs I did pinned up on a map in my area, right? The guy who's a single painter or two-person painter cannot say I did 300 jobs last year, right? 300 jobs earns trust. So, okay, I'm going to make a post about how many jobs I did last year. I'm going to make a post that shows how many projects we're working on today, right? It can be a slideshow of 5 photos of 5 different projects and a caption that says, right now we have all of our teams are out in the field. We're working on 5 different projects. We're going to get them all done on time, on budget, right? That just, it's another way to say we have scale. We can get to you quickly, right? A case study about how Miss Jones called and she needed her house painted before a dinner party 2 weeks from now, and you started 4 days after the initial estimate, and you got the job done before her party. That's another post that the guy down the street with 2 painters cannot say he can do, and people who buy from you care about. All right. What are all the ways I can show I have scale? I'm just going to highlight a bunch of ideas, and then I'm going to go take pictures. So, okay, we talked about these 5 things. I'm going to go take these pictures, and then I'm going to sit down with all my pictures, and I'm going to write captions. And now I'm going to have 10 posts sitting there waiting to go out. Those can be done in a few different 30-minute time blocks, right? That's how I want people to think about it, is all of the work is in the framework. All of the real work here is in what am I trying to say, and what are the different categories? I have scale, I have a system. Most people listening to this probably if you have a real business, a competitive advantage is that you just have a system. Like when we go from A to B to C to D to E, and then at the end there's the final check. And like, this is how it is. People love that. That's why your people buy from you. Do you cost more? Yeah. But like, you have a system. All right. So I'm going to have a bunch of system posts. I'm just going to say, see, this is what we do. And whatever else the third idea might be. Maybe you're super knowledgeable about painting, but for the most part, like that's, unless people are buying from you because you're super knowledgeable about painting, like my company, yes. But like, we don't really need to get into the weeds about process so much for most companies, because most clients aren't that concerned about, oil primer and why are you using it. They want fast, easy, beautiful. But it's figuring out, what am I saying? How can I say it? Then you just go, okay, I'm just going to go look at my blueprint, and I'm going to go, today I'm going to spend 30 minutes doing brainstorming about scale posts. And then I'm going to schedule a day to have somebody go out, and like, the owner of the company doesn't have to do all this. I think the owner of the company has to be 100% involved. You cannot put a post out without the owner being involved in the caption writing. The caption needs to be like an essay that we all wrote in high school. I don't know. I'm old enough where like I talk to people, and this is like 50-50 maybe, but like we got graded on voice. Did you ever get graded on voice in an essay?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right? Voice. Like, does this sound original to you? Or is this just like an AI wrote it? Like, what's the voice of this company? Like, are you sarcastic? Are you fun? Are you dry? Are you super knowledgeable? Are you just family friendly and lighthearted? What is the voice of the company? Okay, that's we need to look at that. That's part of the blueprint. So then I'm going to write a post that says, we did 22 jobs in this neighborhood last year. Just finished another one, but we did 22 jobs in this neighborhood last year. How do I write that caption? What does that caption read like? Is it going to be like, we just did this, we did 22 posts, 22 things because everybody likes us, we did them on time, the paint jobs look really good, just facts? Okay, fine. If that's the vibe of your company, just do that. But then like, do that all the time. Or are you like a super family friendly company and you're going to talk a little more like I'm at the dinner table with you? Okay. Last week, we just completed another project in this neighborhood. Last year, we did 22 of them. The neighborhood's really starting to get to know our signs and really love what we do. It's awesome to come back into the same neighborhood and serve the same group of people. That post. Okay. So there's one. I'm going to do 10 of those. It's simple. It's not easy because it's a muscle that has to get built.
Yeah.
But
do you find it gets easier over time the more that you actually do this?
Yes. And one of the big things that part of my checklist for people with like your posting is like making sure that before you post, it fits your framework, but then also going, I'm going to just sit down when next time I'm with ideal clients, or I'm with my old clients, or when I'm with people who would buy from me. Like, you don't care about like what your 14-year-old nephew thinks, but like people who would be in your sale market, like, hey, will you look at my Instagram feed and tell me what your takeaways are? Like, what does this feel like to you? Because the problem is like, I'm way too in the weeds with my stuff. I don't see my Instagram feed through the lens of my ideal client. I work every day to put myself into the shoes of my ideal client and try to see the world through their lens and to see my Instagram through their lens. But like, I'm not them. So I need to hear, what's this like? And so it's important to like take these posts and go like, hey, what do you think about this? Most of the time I see people are creating content that says, here's what's happening. If you're lucky, they say, here's what's happening. What the thing that's important is like the piece I think is missing that I make sure is written in every framework is, and why should you care? Right? This is the piece that as an expert, I already know why you should care because I eat, sleep, and breathe this. So, why is this like, here's a picture of some site protection on a job. All right, we just finished doing site protection on this job. Well, I know why, but Miss Jones doesn't have a clue why you did all that. So I need to then write for Ms. Jones. I just did a bunch of site protection because accidents happen. Sometimes paint gets spilled. We're going to spray. Overspray goes everywhere. We want to make sure that no matter what, no paint gets on anything but what we're trying to get it on. Right? If we don't tell somebody, here's what's happening and here's why you should care, then the content's not that powerful.
So good. And so I'll give you a little added tailwind to that. So we have customer personas that we build out for any client that we onboard. It's to get to know who we're talking to, their pain points, their buying objections, all of that stuff. Is it's going to be different for every market and every painting company, depending on what service you're offering, especially. And then we write a brand story around that. And the brand story is a way to guide your prospect. They're the ones who are the hero of the story. You're just their guide. You're not trying to sell them. You're just trying to tell them about who you are and lead them to the point of them identifying these guys are the right people for me. And answering that question, why, is so damn important. And I will also touch on the fact that you mentioned batch content creation. A lot of people look at this, they're like, I don't have half an hour every day to create this shit, or even an hour a week. That's crazy. But if you block out, like we do the first Friday of each month, Fridays are our slowest day. That's why I do podcasts on these days. And I do it in the morning because mornings are when I get my best work done. And you can batch out an entire month of content in the course of a couple hours, right? Just do it all at once, batch it out, then you don't have to think about it again. You touched on AI. Are you using AI for any of your content creation at this point?
No.
Have you considered that? Are you looking into it?
I don't think this is, not really. It doesn't do a lot for me. At this point, no, I would say like, I think this is so simple. It's not that hard. I try to keep this as uncomplicated as humanly possible. And, because this is just like basic stuff. And the hard work is to just do it over and over again. Like, again, everyone's trying to find some like easy, hacky, like, no, just like tell people what you do in a way that they understand. And then just do that again and again. And really the work is not as much in like the content is like kind of, it's just happening. Every company is creating content on a daily basis. Whether they're capturing it and posting about it is another story.
Right.
The work is in building the systems in your company for how this stuff happens, right? Who is going to take the photos? Who is going to do the ideation? Who is going to do like, how is this going to happen? When are we going to get the owner in a room pinned down to go through all these captions? I would generally say with more professionalized companies at all of your team meetings, you should be going through your framework. Hey guys, this is what we're trying to say. And here are the categories. Is it any interactions this week that say any of these things? A lot of your ideas will come from your team.
For sure.
And
I think,
and then it's like, how am I going to get humans out in the world to follow me? All right. Like everybody, like most companies now have some system of some way of getting people to give them Google reviews. I would say that Google reviews are not nearly as important as a follow, right? The difference between 50 and 100 Google reviews is a negligible difference to your revenue. The difference between 50 and 100 ideal clients following you is a serious change to your revenue.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because processes, absolutely. You need to have your team out there snapping as many pictures as you can. Incentivize that with your team with performance bonuses, whatever that looks like. Gives you just so much more flexibility. It makes the whole project so much easier. But in terms of capturing followers, how do you do that? You just tell them, hey, go follow ZK Painting on Instagram. Do you send them a link? What does that look like for you?
So for me, it's I have a lot of momentum. So I don't want to talk much about how we do it. Like, yeah, pretty much everyone that we engage with is following us, or the second they hear about us, like, I'm just in a world now where like, oh, you guys aren't following ZK. Everyone like tells everyone about my social media before I even get to talk about it. So it's not really like, but for most people, we want to think about how do you need an elevator pitch, right? Like in 30 seconds, how do I get someone to follow me? And it, like you said, it needs to be about them, right? The value they would gain by following me. And so the only reason anybody follows anybody today is because of FOMO, fear of missing out, right? If I don't follow you today, I'll forget about you and I will miss out on something because I'm not following you. And that bar has gotten very high these days. 6 years ago when I started on Instagram, you get a follow for just posting something because nobody had it, they weren't saturated with people they were following. Today, everyone's attention is pretty saturated. What do I say to somebody in an elevator that gets them to want to follow me? This is a thing that we all need to figure out. And so again, like if we're not adding value in our content, then what are we doing? Instagram and all social media is a platform of giving. I literally just give. I don't take. You don't need to take. You give somebody enough value, they will want to buy from you, and you don't need to tell somebody how to buy from you. Oh, call us for a free estimate. Like calls to action on social media are a joke. Do not do them. People know how to get there's a button right at the top that says contact. If they want to contact me, it takes 3 seconds. Everybody knows. If you want to go to does any of us have a problem contacting a business that we want to do business with? No. Did reading call us for a free estimate get any new humans to pick up the phone? I would argue not at all. Like that is crazy to me. Like that is an old school marketing thing. Calls to action, like they're great. They're already giving us their attention. They followed us. Like we don't need to take. Don't ask somebody questions. What's your favorite color front door? Your grandma and your wife are the two people who respond to that question. It's just embarrassing. We don't ask questions in our content. We give. And as long as you're giving value, so you could say things to people like, oh, maybe you get some design inspiration ideas. Whatever. Sometimes we post discounts. Like whatever it is, you figure out a pitch that gets people to go follow you. And then the key is like when they get to your page, you better have a streamlined, very easy way for me to understand who you are, what you do, and why I should want to follow you. If it's cluttered and it's all over the place and your highlights are messed up and your bio is crap, like, yeah, your conversion rate to even get the follow is going to be low. But if I can, like, the hard part is getting someone to get to your page. Hopefully when they get there, you have this really beautiful bio that's got a few bullet points that say the 3 things you're trying to say in your framework. Here's the 3 things we do, essentially. And here's where we work. God, fucking people. The number of times you go to an account and I can't even tell what state you're in. It's wild. Like, here's where we work. Here's what we do. Here are the types of projects that we do. We're going to highlights are essential. We're going to curate our feed for you. So if you only care about cabinets, you don't have to go through a million of my posts to find all my cabinet posts. You can just click on a button that says cabinet painting and go through only my cabinet projects. Like if you've built a good page, then all you have to do is create an elevator pitch to get people to go there.
So good. Yeah, that long-term play, though, it takes a lot of building to get to that point.
That is the thing. You were not wrong. This is an exponential growth curve, and it is a slow moving of a snowball, and then all of a sudden, because it's a network effect. It's like a literal network effect. It's in your backyard, the Miss Jones, Miss Johnson, Miss Jones, like the network of your potential clients. That's what the network is. This isn't this network out on Instagram of like strangers. We don't care about that network, but we do care about everyone who is in your potential buyer group. They're connected. They're similar. They shop at the same places. They buy the same things. And you want to spread amongst those people. And most of that is like physical, like on the phone, at a networking thing, in a client's house, at a dinner party, whenever you interact with a human, you're get a pitch to why they should probably go follow you on social media. And then from there, when you have a good feed, I go there, I'm like, this is a documentary. This is a grade A documentary of my company. Now, that's the first step. You have to, before we start to try to drive anyone to it, we want to have like, yeah, this is like a great sales tool. Then you can start to send, if you work with realtors, every realtor in your town is going to be on social media now, right? They're all on the board. So you can start to send messages. And like a lot of my revenue has come from proactive DMing. If you have a great feed that says, here's who I am, and it's all good. Now you can send a direct message to then I follow every real estate agent, every builder, every architect, every designer in my area. And then I send messages. Hey, Bob, I think we could add a lot of value to you. See that you sell houses in our area. We work with a lot of real estate agents. I think we could add a lot of value to you. I'd love to sit down and have coffee. Copy and paste that message to every single real estate agent, change the name, and 10% of those might get back to you. But when they do, it's not a cold call. Like if you could cold call all of them and be like, hey, I'm Zach, I'm a painter. Want to talk to me? Like they'd be like, fuck off. But every message you've ever gotten from anybody on social media, you go and look at who is this person. So they're going to go look at your page. And if your page is professional and clean and neat, they're like, and it says the things that you do and it aligns with the things that they care about. All right, you're going to get taken seriously. And then when you get a job as a referral from that real estate agent, you're going to post about that real estate agent being the referral. They're going to post about it on their feed, and the network effect continues to grow.
Yeah, it's amazing. So to close that loop, you got a good looking profile. You've been posting consistently. And look, guys, even if you have 2 followers, don't go buy followers. That defeats the whole purpose of this entire strategy. It needs to be organic. It needs to be slow. It's by design. You get some followers coming in. Let's say they reach out to you on a direct message. How do you go about responding? Is it an immediate pitch? Do you pre-qualify there? What does all that look like?
Yeah. So if you've built your stuff well enough, you should be, there's a lot to be said for like, here's what I do. And there occasionally like, here's what I don't do. Right. And the more we've been like very clear about what we do, there shouldn't get a lot of tire kickers, right? For the most part. But so if you've heard about me on Instagram, I'm going to give you if you reach out through Instagram or call me and you tell the first thing I ask anyone who ever calls, how'd you hear about us? I need this information. Like where, how? That's how I know where all this revenue is coming from. And so if they tell me it's Instagram, I'm going to give them full effort. I will come to your house, but I'm going to like talk about rough numbers of projects before we ever meet. So, you have a cabinet project? All right, send me some pictures of your cabinets and I'll get you a rough budget. And if that's in line, then we'll come out. Or, I want my door done, or I want this done, I want this done. Okay, well, roughly, for the most part, depends on the lead. But if I'm all on the fence about the lead, I'm going to sort of anchor them with some numbers and make sure that like we're not wasting each other's time. But if you've done it right, especially with most of the guys we're talking about, like they're going to say, from Instagram, like, how did they find you? Well, they found you because somebody that you've worked with, or so, like there's probably a pretty strong connection to you, and they probably have done their homework, and they're probably worth going out and doing an estimate for. I would say it's a safe bet to go do an estimate for 100% of anyone who reaches out on Instagram. And if you start to see that those are not working out, then I would probably still more change your content creation over even your sales process. Because what we do want to do is like talk to our ideal client and also tell our non-ideal client, we're not for you.
Yeah. Pre-qualification in the content you're creating is so damn important.
Yeah.
All right. So Zach, we touched on a lot here today. I think there's been just a ton of value bombs in this. If you had like just one thing you wanted to tell anybody considering doing this as a business owner, one thing that you can shout from the rooftop, what would that be?
I would say like, it's have a plan, but have a plan for social media and understand that like, if you're running a business, you should already have this plan. Like you should already have a marketing plan. Here's my pitch. Here's what my sales process, in the sales process, here's what we're trying to say. Like if you've built a business that serves people, what is it that you're doing that serves them? Just talk about that. Like it's all like, this is just another platform for your marketing and your messaging that drives revenue. None of this is super complicated. None of this needs to be different. And for the most part, like if you hear or read anything about social media marketing, ignore it. Like 99% of it is for influencers who are trying to hack an algorithm and sell their followers to some brand. Just ignore it. Think about social media as just a megaphone to a BNI group that you would go to. When you go to BNI, it's exactly like BNI actually. Business Networking International. If anybody hasn't done that, it's a powerful thing, especially when you start. You show up every week with 30, 40 people. Everyone has a different business. Every week you get 1 minute to stand up and give an elevator pitch. And at first you suck. After you've been there for a while, you get pretty good. That is Instagram. You get to give an elevator pitch. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. And when you go to BNI is a great analogy because there's a lot of coaching up in BNI around how to do this. And one of the things they'll tell you is like, if you want people to know you do cabinet painting, you need to talk about cabinet painting for like 6 weeks straight. And every week you're talking about, because there's 40 people in the room. It's such an analogy. There's 40 people in the room and everyone's giving a 1 minute pitch about what they do. And everyone's busy and everyone's got their lives. So the idea that everyone deeply understood your cabinet painting process from the 1 minute you said it one morning at a meeting is a joke. So you got to say it over and over. So just seeing that this social media thing is just a megaphone to the marketing that you're already doing, boots on the ground.
So good. Zach, the organic social media king in this industry. You offer a consulting program as well. You mentioned this a couple of times. You help businesses build that framework.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? And if anybody's interested in getting a hold of you to discuss what that looks like, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process because I think the meat and potatoes of this is your framework. So for the most part, for most people, I am just doing consulting where the deliverable is a framework. If you have a framework that is, what am I posting and how am I going about it? What is my checklist? If I just follow this, then you can go and do this. Like that's for me, what I've experienced, that's where I add the most value. The posting for people, I was going to start a social media company where I did all it. Like, no, you can do all of this stuff. The hard part is like, I'm pretty good at it. Just like, let's hone this down. So we can do that in a couple Zoom calls. It's pretty simple. And so the best way is either you can text me, my number's 401-935-8702. You can send me a DM on Instagram. Those are probably the two best ways.
CK Painting, Instagram. Zach, thank you again for taking the time out of your day today, man. I know that you got a busy schedule and this is going to provide a lot of value to a lot of people out there. So thanks again, brother.
You got it, man.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us on that episode. I hope you guys enjoyed that chat as much as I did. Now, listen, if you guys are hungry for more conversations like this, go swing by our website. It's basecoatmarketing.com/podcast. And finally, we are very open to feedback. So if we haven't covered a topic or there's someone you want us to chat with, please let us know. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next conversation for painters.